and welcome to Atherton On Air Extra, Veterans Day Edition. I'm Addie Shaney. Veterans Day is an important national holiday that should cause all of us to take a brief pause from our daily lives and think about all of those who have given their time to preserve the freedoms that we take advantage of every day.
November 11th is the anniversary of signing the armistice, and at 11 a.m., hostiles between all nations were brought to an end and thus ended World War I. We take this day to not only honor, but to remember the veterans who have served our country. Celebrating this holiday can be done in a variety of ways, such as parades, picnics, visitations, family dinners, etc. This day is such a prominent and important holiday that there is even a park dedicated to it. Right here in Louisville, Kentucky, you can honor our veterans by visiting beautiful scenery and enjoying the fresh air. This holiday doesn't have to be limited to only those who know a veteran. When visiting Jeffersontown Veterans Memorial Park, you are able to gain a better understanding and education as to what it was like to be a veteran and who the people who served our country were. Jeffersontown Veterans Memorial Park was the first park to be solely dedicated to veterans and is visited by many local residents per day. All ages are welcome and bound to learn at least a few new things about the people who fought for our country. Upon entering the park, you were greeted with a variety of military equipment and vehicles, from a helicopter to an M608 tank to even a missile, with descriptions of each one and how they are used. As you explore farther into the park, there are many other monuments to visit to educate us on the history of Veterans Day and show us the heroes who served our country. Among the grounds of the park are bricks which showcase individual veterans and how they contributed to help us. Seeing the names and faces of veterans is ideal when trying to gain a better understanding of how our country has come to be. If you get the opportunity, please come and learn about our veterans in various ways to remember and thank them for their service.
Did you know that some of your teachers at Atherton are veterans? Here's Mr. Tim Foray and Donald Williams.
Hi, my name is Tim Foray. I am an English teacher at Atherton High School, and Dr. Abley asked the veterans at Atherton to put together a little brief video sort of introducing ourselves and talking about our time in the service. So I am a veteran of the U.S. Navy, and when I joined the Navy, and I won't tell you when, I was assigned to the USS Detroit out of Norfolk, Virginia, where I served for 3 years. During my time there, I visited Guantanamo Bay, Cuba for training, and I completed one Mediterranean cruise visiting Spain, France, Italy, Sicily, and Israel. While on active duty, I worked for the JAG Corps, which is the Navy's judicial system, as essentially a paralegal. Following my 3 years of active duty, I transferred to the Naval Reserves, where I was assigned to the commander of the 6th Fleet flagship out of Gaeta, Italy. Over the years during my time in the Naval Reserves, I continued working in administration and served during my extended period, active duty periods, primarily in Gaeta, Italy, but I also served in London, England, Stuttgart, Germany, and Naples, Italy. I stayed in the reserves for 20 years, which is required to get your retirement, and I'm very grateful I did. Thank you very much.
Hello, Atherton. This is Mr. Williams. I'm the lead engineering teacher for the Engineering Academy. I teach the aerospace engineering course and the first-year aviation maintenance course. And I am a veteran. I spent 11 years in the United States Air Force as a staff sergeant. I was an avionics journeyman, supervisor, and a field training master instructor in the Air Force. I was part of a number of teams while I was in. We did surveillance of the North Koreans during Desert Storm. We did Eyes of the Pacific. I was a member of the 961st AWACS. Our job was surveillance all over the Pacific Theater of Operations. And I was also part of numerous counter-drug task force in Panama, based out of Howard Air Force Base in Panama in the 90s. That takes me to a lot of countries: Japan, Korea, the Philippines, Thailand, Australia, Singapore, Panama, Bolivia, Paraguay, and Ecuador, just to name a few. And I'm very grateful for the experience. that I was able to serve my country and protect and defend our nation. And very proud of that service. And it's been my privilege and pleasure to be in service to the students and staff at Atherton as well. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy Veterans Day. And remember that without those that served, we wouldn't be able to enjoy the freedoms that we have today. Take care and God bless.
Outside our Atherton family, there are many more veterans that deserve our thanks. Let's take a listen to Mr. Owens and Miss Kaufman as they talk to Colonel Ruffing and Mr. Donald Barnett.
Good evening, Colonel Ruffing. It's a pleasure to get to speak with you in person. I would like to introduce you to our students. If you would, could you tell us a little bit about your military background, sir?
Absolutely. So before I start, I just want to say thanks so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be able to talk to the next generation of not really military, but the next generation of future leaders. So before I talk about the military, I'll talk about a little bit my personal background. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, originally a suburb of Chicago, and I started flying when I was 13 years old. I wanted to become an astronaut since I was 5, and that's kind of what I was all about and focused on. And at 14 years old, I soloed, or I flew an airplane all by myself, and at 16 years old, I took I got my license so I could take my mom flying, my brother's flying, aunts, uncles, all that fun stuff, cousins, all of them. And then at 18 years old, I actually had my flight instructor's license, and I could teach you or anyone in America how to fly an airplane. But there was just one problem. I didn't have my driver's license yet, so they had to drive me to the airport. And so I've been flying since I was 13. So
That's amazing.
I'm an F-16 fighter pilot by trade. I have nearly 3,000 hours total in military and civilian aircraft. In the military, I've flown the F-16. I've flown the MC-12, which is a twin-engine intelligence platform. And then I've flown both of our primary trainer aircraft, our T-6 and our T-38. Supersonic, can go faster than the speed of sound. You have young students, and you get to try to make sure they know the right thing to do. So
Sure.
that's the basics of my military career.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah, I went to the United States Air Force Academy,
Nice.
and I graduated in 2003. Have a degree in aeronautical engineering.
That's amazing. It's so cool that you were flying planes at 13. I was barely doing anything at age 13. So every year we have a Veterans Day program at our school. And of course this year things are a little different. So we're trying to reach out to military individuals and veterans and just kind of getting a feel for, what Veterans Day means to you as someone who's in the military. So perhaps you could speak on that a little bit.
Right. So I have mixed feelings about Veterans Day. So I just give another group to my high school, got to talk to them about Veterans Day. And one of the things I talked about was, why we celebrate it. And you can read about how it came from World War I, in World War I at the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour, right? It was kind of how it started. And, we're recognizing people for their patriotism and their sacrifice. And I kind of sum that all up to courage, right? We're recognizing people for the courage they have to be a part of the military, right? And I said, well, hey, that courage is nice, but that courage is really just an aspect of character. And that character doesn't get built or formed in basic training, and it doesn't happen when you're in a firefight or when you're flying in combat, right? That character gets built day in and day out. Every day there in school right now, right? I talked about how my character got built during high school when I would get up and I would go and we would raise the flag every day at my school, right? And so character is by not taking the easy road, not cheating, right? Not taking the shortcuts when you know the right thing to do and making that choice to do the right thing. That's how your character gets built. And so that's really what we're honoring and what we're celebrating as Veterans Day. And so the cool thing about that character and that courage is it doesn't require you to be in the military, right? That is everyone And so that was my last state, was to challenge them to be like the people that we're here to serve, or that we're here to honor, right? Everyone, thanks to the military, but like, we're all Americans just at the end of the day. That's what we are. We're Americans are trying to think of someone and something bigger than ourselves, help our brother and sister on our left and on our right, and just trying to make the world a better place. And so for me, it's nice to have a parade, or here's a discount, or here's a thank you for your service, or here's the promotional ad. But I think the way we honor veterans, and that we truly reflect on their service and understand what they do, is try to live our lives with the same sort of courage, with the same sort of character, the same sort of excellence. We have our core values in the Air Force of integrity, service, and excellence. So just trying to live out to be a good person that contributes to society is how we can best celebrate Veterans Day. And that's not one day of the year, that's
Right.
365 days of the year.
I think that's absolutely wonderful advice for our young people. We have a lot of students who probably wouldn't consider the military as a career option and things like that. But perhaps maybe you could give a piece of advice to our students as they're beginning to graduate high school and head out into the real world. Could you speak on, as an individual who has a high success rate, give our kids a piece of advice before you leave us?
Right. So I've again been very blessed and fortunate throughout my life. Again, wanted to fly since I was 5, and so I personally have formed I founded a nonprofit organization called the Legacy Flight Academy that was based upon the heroic Tuskegee Airmen, right? Where we try to instill that character, right, of what they did. And if you don't know the story of the Tuskegee Airmen, I wish I could give you an order. You go Google it, right? Like, you're right on your phone, just Google it. There are tons of movies and everything, but just the Tuskegee Airmen is an absolutely incredible story, again, about Americans who fought for freedom and fought for their right to achieve. And so, as we live in 2020 America and beyond, right, it's kind of sometimes easy to not comprehend previous generations of just what they had to do in order to achieve success. Again, we have more technology in our hands than it took to land someone on the moon, right? So if you can just think about that for a second, that how much effort did it take for us to be able to land someone on the moon, or the space shuttle, again, talk about the things I love and familiar with. So I would encourage people to strive for that same level of achievement, that same level of excellence. And again, the Tuskegee Airmen are my personal examples, being a pilot and being a minority, right? They were the first minority pilots, and just what they did and what they overcame and what they were focused on doing really gave me a chance. And again, I've been blessed. I know several Tuskegee Airmen. Again, I'm affiliated with them for a long time. And we have a saying, or there's a saying from my nonprofit, we want to know, live, and grow the legacy of the heroic Tuskegee Airmen. And so I would just encourage people, no matter what it is they want to do, to seek it out, to know about it, to find out about it, to not be limited by whatever is in front of you, but to truly come up with a goal and a passion and a purpose, right? And then to go after it, right? And just, you can achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve.
If you're disciplined and you're hardworking, and and those are typical military values, but those, as you said, and that may be the best thing we take away from this conversation with our students, is those are values for everybody. I mean, that's what breeds success, whether you're going to be a dancer or a painter or a businessman or a military person, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So,
doctor, lawyer, people always do the sports and entertainment, but like, sports and entertainment are just as hard as doctor and lawyer. Actually, in some cases, it's harder.
It's not harder.
Right? It's actually harder. So the funny part is, as a fighter pilot, there's less than 2,000. There's about 2,000 fighter pilots in the Air Force, and so statistically speaking, speaking, just on numbers of, how many people play college football and stuff, it's more elite to be a fighter pilot, and harder. The chances are less than it is to be an NFL football player. And so you know how hard it is to become an NFL football player. Well, let me tell you, it is hard, but not impossible to become a fighter pilot, right?
That's right.
The military has options, whether it's the Guard, where you stay local, or if it's active duty, it's multiple branches. It's a Coast Guard, but lots of different educational benefits. I went to college for free. I have 2 master's degrees for free, right? All paid for by the military. So there's a lot of options and opportunities in the military, but again, it's not about being in the military. It's about doing something that will serve and help others and that will better yourself.
Service is the backbone of our country, and it goes back to constitutional times. I'm a history teacher, and I can give the students some homework to check out the Tuskegee Airmen. That is my job, actually, what I do for a living. So we can definitely make sure that they know that history. We haven't got there in AP US history, but we do teach them every year. I would like to thank you so much, not only for your service, but for your time. I know you're a very busy individual, and it shows great character to give us 10 or 15 minutes of your time. And once again, it's been such a pleasure meeting you, and I think our students will take great things away from our short conversation.
Awesome. Well, again, I really appreciate you having me. I wish them the best. It's a joy, and it's my honor and privilege to hopefully, inspire just one person. But if there's anything I can do to help you in the future, once you get to that point in history, let me know. Maybe I can give a presentation or all. But again, it's something. This is the way I ended my last presentation. I'll end it with you if you don't mind. So
Perfect.
I've had 3 combat deployments, twice to Iraq, once to Afghanistan. And the thing about my deployment to Iraq, my first deployment that struck me, wasn't in the air, the most defining moment, right? It wasn't in the air, it wasn't dropping bombs in combat, it wasn't doing my job, it was just being in a war zone, right? And so it was really amazing because we had a whole bunch of what we call third country nationals, people from all over Indonesia, Philippines, Africa, Mongolia, Middle East, like all over that had come to Iraq to be janitors or cooks or laundrymen, right? All to find work and to find a job and to find opportunities. Well, meanwhile, we have all these Iraqis that were fleeing, running away from Iraq, trying to go someplace else, all in search of that same sort of opportunity, a better life for them and their family, right? And so this kind of dichotomy or this opposition that you have people that could both be coming to and leaving, but both be in search of the same thing, really made the cliche much more than a cliche, right? I am truly proud to be an American.
Sure.
And I would hope and what I can live is, if you can recognize what this country has to offer, the opportunities that our country has, not saying that it's perfect, not saying that it doesn't have major problems or minor problems, right? But what it has to offer, that hopefully you would, one, take advantage of it, but that you would also be proud to be an American.
That's a wonderful piece of advice to end on. Colonel Ruffing, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And I will be calling you back about giving another presentation, and guarantee you that.
Sounds good.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Hey, bye.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon or evening, everybody. My name is Mrs. Kaufman, and I teach Exploring Civics in the Freshman Academy here at Atherton. And I would like to introduce you all to Donald Barnett. Donald was raised with faith and a sense of giving back to his community. He was also raised to be respectful and to serve our country. He believes that you work hard to excel in areas you find easy, and even harder to be successful in areas that don't come as naturally. Donald is a former football star from Trinity High School and is a graduate of the University of Louisville. He served in special operations in the U.S. Air Force, and he is a friend of my family, and I love him very much. He is a kind and amazing person, and I am honored to know him as part of my family. The fact that he valiantly served his country and with no thought of personal gain gives me even more pride in him. Donald is a husband and soon-to-be first-time dad. Yay. And he loves his family with all his heart, and he has served his country with dignity and honor. I know we will never likely know exactly what you did in your service to our country, but I would like to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All
It was an
right.
honor.
Yes, of course, of course. So why did you choose the Air Force?
To tell the truth and be 100% honest, I actually took my ASVAB. That's the initial test you take when you're looking to join the military. I took it for the Army.
Oh, okay.
And that was in light of my grandfather, Raymond. He was in the Army. He was a veteran, obviously. He served during Vietnam.
He was a medic,
And,
correct?
I'm sorry?
He was a medic, is that correct?
He was 11 Bravo, so he was actually an
Oh, okay.
infantry soldier
There you go.
during Vietnam. And I at that time, when I was 20, 21, looking to go into the military as a stepping stone for college, my intention was to follow in his footsteps. So I had every aspiration of joining and serving my country. And I took that ASVAB test for the Army. And to be completely honest, like I said, be 100% transparent. After I had taken that ASVAB test, my recruiter said, you know, you can really have any job you want. And me being me, I said, well, give me my paperwork. I'm going to the Air Force. And that was because the Air Force had a little bit more freedom to choose. So they had a few more job offerings that I was interested in at the time. In the Army, they were kind of gearing me towards missiles, intervention missiles. And I was very interested in intelligence work. I was interested in satellites and computers. And actually, when I entered the military, I did not have a job. A lot of times when you first go in, you'll have a job predetermined for you. I went to boot camp not knowing where I would be. I could have been anything from a cook to, direct action. So, a combat soldier. But I ended up getting lucky and going into intelligence, which is a wide range of things. You end up with a security clearance, and you get to go to meetings that a lot of people aren't normally included in. No worries.
All right. So what skills did you pick up in the Air Force in your service that you have used in your career or in education, or your education, or however you do?
So it's not just waking up early and working hard. A lot of people work very hard, but you have to find a pace that's productive for you. All right. And that's really what I think benefited me the most, was knowing, I can do the tough stuff, but when nobody's looking, I have to still hold myself accountable. And, we're all human. At the end of the day, we all have areas where we struggle. But like I said, you just have to be willing to compromise with yourself and work on a Saturday or work on a Sunday, but give yourself the ability to recognize when you need to take a break. And so that's just as important as going 100 miles an hour as knowing when to pump the brakes.
Yeah,
so,
there's always a wall, right?
Exactly.
Now, whether you ease up to that wall or hit it face first is completely different.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's my real question. I have a real question. Who cooks better, Nana or the Air Force?
Oh man, so that's a no-brainer. My grandmother Nana, she's wonderful, and I don't, to me, nobody can compare to that home cooking. But the military does have some tricks up their sleeve, especially when you're on deployment. If you're located in a combat zone, regardless of whether it's in the Middle East or somewhere else, they do take care of you. And so, I looked forward to Sundays where they did have some treats available. They did bring in like steak and lobster on one day a week. So that is one thing that you're looking forward to when you are deployed. But the answer to your question is Nana.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, she's honestly the best cook I've ever experienced in my life. She's fantastic. She's just a wonderful human to begin with.
Well, thank you. No, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So can you tell us any experiences you had, like where you may have gone, or things that you might have experienced? Like, I don't know if you experienced combat. If you can share any of that with us, or okay.
Yeah. So I was in intelligence. I did possess a top secret clearance. I was not a Navy SEAL. I was not an Army Ranger. I was not a PJ, which is pararescueman. So inherently, I was deployed to a combat zone, but I was not a direct action troop. So whereas you may be deployed, especially to what they call FOB, forward operating base, you do support the mission. And so, although you're not pursuing high value targets, there are times when you will take fire. Okay, and so I was deployed to a couple different locations, some better than others. I supported Operation Enduring Freedom. I supported Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation New Dawn. And so there's several ways to get involved. Don't think if you don't want to be a Navy SEAL, or if you do want to be a Navy SEAL or a Ranger or one of those TAC Ps that we call in the Air Force, there's several ways of getting involved. And I'll just say this: in the Air Force, it's a little bit different than the Army or the Navy. When they need somebody with a clearance, that means to pick up data or to go have a top secret meeting. That's one way to get involved. And I was just fortunate enough that that was my role. So I met a lot of really what we call high speed, low drag people. I'll let you explain that on your own. A lot of really, really brave people, and knew some that unfortunately are no longer with us. But like I said, when you think of the Air Force, everybody always asks me, were you a pilot? And I say, no, I wasn't a pilot, but I still got to go to a lot of cool places, meet a lot of really cool people, do a lot of really cool things, most of which I can't talk about, and that's just part of it. So, yeah. So absolutely.
Very interesting. I love hearing these stories. Definitely. Thank you.
Sure.
Did you get any awards or citations, any medals or citations?
Yeah, so I guess really, no, I didn't receive the Medal of Honor or anything like that. No, I didn't get a Purple Heart or anything like that. I got
I'm
several.
grateful for that one.
Yeah, I had several meritorious units and campaign ribbons and things like that, where you always see the guys with the ribbon rack right here. And then most of them, if they're combat troops and things like that, they're huge. In time, with your tenure in the military, that ribbon rack develops. I was in for 4 years, and so that's really a relatively short career for most people. That's pretty much the minimum. But at the same time, I can say yes. My unit, my what we call flight, and my what would be the platoon in the Army, we did receive several medals and awards. I would have to pull out my DD-214 because it's been several years. Yeah, to be honest, it's been a while, but yes, ma'am. So I do have a couple oak leaf clusters and things like that to tell my kids or grandkids about. But that comes with time and dedication more than anything else. And you earn them for sure, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And
Yeah.
so the answer is no. I didn't receive a purple ribbon, but several meritorious units and things like that come along with teamwork. I would say that come along with doing your job, doing it well, and getting the mission accomplished. So there you go. Absolutely.
Cool. I like that it's teamwork because that's so important.
Oh, more than anything else, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna take all of us. I tell my students all the time, it takes a village to get this
Oh,
done.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Appreciate the village.
Yeah, you have to, and I know this sounds funny, but you got to know your role and play that role to the max. And what that does is it maximizes your potential, and from that you get more opportunity to do what it is you prefer to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Good advice. So, what was the first thing you did when your service ended?
I grew a beard.
I know you did.
I grew a long beard. I think that's what a lot of us do when we first get out, because you get used to shaving, once or even twice a day, depending on.
Oh yeah.
Depending on your hormones, your genes, I should say.
Yeah.
But I grew a beard. I grew a long beard, and went back to college and kept my head in a book. That's what I did.
There you go. So you are well known for your hair. You were the cutest little boy with the cutest little afro I'd ever seen. Well, not little, it was pretty big. What was it like getting your head shaved? Look at that grin. I love it.
So that's something you'll never forget. More than anything else, I would say, you earn it. From day one, you earn it, and it feels good. So really, that's a boot camp thing that doesn't go on forever. That happens through boot camp, and I think it happens only 2 or 3 times.
Oh, okay.
But
and
what
how long is boot camp? Is it the same amount in the Air Force that it is every other branches?
Yeah, so that's another good question. And we'll lead into, I'm sure, a question you'll ask me about. And like I said, I'll be 100% honest and transparent.
Okay.
When I went in the military, the Air Force boot camp, which everybody in the Air Force goes to Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. Mm-hmm. When I went in 2008, boot camp was 8 weeks. And prior to that, I think the month prior, boot camp was 6 weeks. So I had joined at a time to where you'd have to go for 2 extra weeks, which was like, oh gosh,
awesome.
what are you gonna do? Well, this is the part where I told you I'd be honest. When I got to boot camp, I was chosen to be dorm chief, which is like the flight leader. It's you're in charge of 59 other guys. And when something happens or something goes wrong, they hold you accountable. And so let's just say a couple of my guys were goofing off, and I had to stay a few extra weeks, and that's just part of it. And so, you take it with a grain of salt, you make the best of it. So I spent 13 weeks in an 8-week boot camp, and I say, I might as well went into the Marines, because the Marines was 13 weeks boot camp from the start. So those are really tough guys. I respect everything that they do. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things to where you really put your best foot forward and make the best of, regardless of the scenario situation. Mm-hmm. And that's it. I mean, no extra words necessary right there.
Do you think that as a person of color, you were maybe treated differently in the Air Force, or did you ever experience any situations that may have been difficult for you?
Yeah, so to answer that question, personally, I don't feel that I was treated any differently. I think everybody's held accountable, all right? I will say that a lot of people, regardless of your race or ethnicity or whatever you choose to identify as, we all have a personal chip, right? And that chip sits on your shoulder, and it's up to you whether you, decide to get over it and move forward, or to grow up, or to dwell on it, right? And so a lot of times I would meet people, and they would be under my command, my leadership, and they would say, "Well, I'm from here, and we just didn't do things like that." And I say, "Well, you got to understand that we are a team, and now you're here. So, regardless of whether you decide to give that person a choice or tell them what to do, at the end of the day, it's up to the individual. To answer your question, emotional intelligence is a big factor, and empathy is one of the biggest things that I can convey from the position of dealing with ethnicity and race, and especially character, more than anything else.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. Character is what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. All right. I want to end on a lighter note. Did you get a tattoo while you were in the service?
I did. Like I said, I'll be honest, we all go through phases. I'm 33. I'll probably still get some more tattoos. Who knows?
Unreal. I can't believe it.
But I think that's one of the first things I did when I got out of boot camp.
Well, do you have any final words of advice for my students that may be watching this?
Yeah. So I thought long and hard about what to say when I knew you were going to ask this question. And I would say, I don't care who you are. If you're not on a steady foundation, right? Don't expect the military to be able to give you something you don't already possess, right? So the military, regardless of whether it's the Air Force, the Army, the Marines, the Coast Guard, the Navy, the Space Force, you're going to need to be of sound mind and character, right? You're going to need to possess the fundamentals, and regardless of it, if they're as small as a mustard seed, right? So look that up, right? Faith is small as a mustard seed, right? So when you're young and you're still trying to figure out the world and figure out yourself, sometimes the best thing to do is to throw yourself in the deep end and make the best out of it. And I think that's kind of what I did. And I was an athlete, so I was used to working hard, but what I was not used to doing was asking myself to go places that I was uncomfortable. And that was more mentally than physically. Yeah. I could run forever. I could jump as high as I needed to jump. I could do 1,000,000 push-ups. But if I could not comprehend what my leadership or what my boss was asking me to do, regardless of whether that's fighting in a combat zone or analyzing a bunch of data, that was my task. And so really asking myself to go to a place to where I hadn't been before, and we're not saying on the first try, but really getting in a rhythm and developing a routine of pushing myself to my personal limit. That is the most fundamental thing that will help, well, what I think will help you grow as a person and help, help move you to where you'd like to be, right? And so I think that military does a good job of allowing people to flourish, whether you're from LA or Kansas or Texas or Florida or Kentucky or Jeffersonville, Indiana, or regardless of where you're from, your success is not dependent on anyone else other than your own personal effort. And a lot of that effort comes from the willingness you have to ask yourself to grow, right? And so, the biggest trees that you see swaying in the wind that look like they're going to fall over, they all started as seeds. They all had to be watered. They all had to be planted in the dirt.
Yep. The mighty oak comes from an acorn.
That's it. And so, it takes time. And so I would say to your students, respect the process, aspire for greatness, and never, ever give up. Never give up. I don't care if you feel like quitting. I don't care if somebody told you to quit. I don't care if I'm from here and we did it that way. Don't do it. Trust yourself and you will be fine. What really will keep you up at night is letting yourself down, thinking I could have done more, right? And so, know yourself, know what's going to make you happy, and give your best effort every time, regardless of whether it's in math class or English or social studies, and find what you like. I would say that find what you like. If you enjoy science, do science. There's a lot of people out here that spend a lot of time spinning their wheels. And if they could have just grasped onto something that they felt held their attention for a little bit longer than the next thing, those same people probably would have been a little bit happier. As long as you give your best, no one can take anything away from you. And so that's my advice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so, so much. And please give those puppies and Miss Lauren and little Elliot, soon to be, big hugs and kisses from me. And I really appreciate your service.
Thank you for your time today. And if you know a veteran, be sure to thank them. For Atherton On Air Extras, I'm Addie Shaney.